There we go. All right, this is a proposal to co-locate Squad 410 at the Allen Volunteer Fire Department. Hopefully, y'all all got to see Jacob Thompson's presentation at our last meeting. He's here, so he can add more information. If you have any questions or anything that come up, I'm sure he will. But basically, the overall plan, real simple, is they're building a new facility. They're looking for the county to basically chip in with $1 million to help build it a little bit bigger so that 410 can relocate there and service the area and be closer to where most of the calls that they've been getting are, and they're not roaming. And there's also, I also want to mention, because it's still on there too, is that they approached the county with us buying one of their engines, and so that was being discussed as well. We heard all that from the fire marshal, and that's why we decided to have this special meeting, so we could hear from each of you. We think this is a very important subject that we need to get everybody's opinion on. We are not making any decisions tonight. But we are just gathering information and may even have follow-up information that we need to learn about. So we have no particular order. We've got a lot of people here. I don't know who plans to speak and who doesn't, but I'll just ask you to come up one at a time and make your opinion known, or questions you have that we may need to get answered. We may not have the answers. Maybe Jacob does, or we can go find the answers at another time. But we want to keep this project moving forward if we're going to go forward with it. So who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, come on up.
So, my name is Randy Dozier. I'm the chief of the Allen Fire Department. And overheard some of the comments. Some of those are not accurate. But first off, I feel like there has been a misunderstanding on the stance of Allen Fire Department with this project, and I think that's due to some misinformation, comments being made during presentation, and phone conversation, and that is, when we have said that Allen would move forward with or without the county, that was referencing Squad 410, the partnership with that. That was not meant for the commissioners or anything else. So I want to make it clear that we value the commissioner's opinion and want their full support with this project. The other is the engine. There's never been any discussion about us surplusing or working with an engine in with the deal with Squad 410. We had brief discussions about our rescue company, but very brief. Nothing other than just a few talks with that, but nothing moving forward. But there's never been any discussion about us doing anything with an engine company.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
if I may, I'd just like to say, if you had something else to do tonight and didn't really want to be here, that's my fault. Sorry. Just, when I first heard about this idea, it sounded okay to me, but then I started hearing complaints. I started hearing people saying different things against it, and I'm talking about fire personnel complaining about it. And so I thought, well, you know, we need to get together and talk this thing out then, because if not everybody's on board with it, we need to know why, and we need to figure out the best way to handle this. So that's why I asked for this meeting, because to me it's about giving, you know, I'm a former volunteer fireman myself, and to me it's about giving the people adequate and appropriate coverage, not turf battles. So I hope we can keep it that way, and let's come up with what's the best thing to do about this concerning coverage for our citizens. That's the only reason I asked for the meeting, is so we could get together and talk it over. So I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
Chief, I just have one question, not in reference to, from my understanding, we've known about moving Squad 410 into Allen for about 2 to 3 months. How long have we known about the new Allen Fire Station that's going there? Is that, because I've heard 2 years. So I'm trying to find out when exactly we knew about this new station going there.
We first put it in the budget in It was in the 24-25 budget that was approved. That's when we started, just before that, we started plans on trying to look for land and seeing what opportunities. We originally tried to find land on Heathcliff Drive. There was a house there that we did burn for training, and we first contacted those people first, but that did not work out. So we moved on down, looked at some areas around Yellow Poplar with some of the elevation and things, it wasn't worth buying that property there, and that's how we settled with the property on closer to Joe Boss. Anything to add?
Just April 17th was the first mention of that. What's that?
Please come to the microphone.
It's hard to do.
April 17th was the first indication that we had from our board of directors, and if you look in your binder that we've given you, it should be under the building part, and it will be a minutes section from that meeting.
Mr. Chairman, if I may respond, I didn't know about them wanting to move, have a new fire station added until about November during the election, when they had Commissioner Lindsay and myself both come and talk to them about it, or listen to them, I should say. And as far as the co-location, I didn't know about that till about maybe a month ago, so.
All right, so I kind of want to delve a little bit into some logistics behind all of this. I know one of the biggest things that I've heard is that the $1 million is a contentious issue amongst the fire departments. So my first question is that $1 million going to be used specifically for Squad 10 areas, or is it going to be used to make, I guess, the public areas in the fire station larger to incorporate more people, like Squad 410?
So the $1 million is a rough estimate. We put in there not to exceed $1 million, so that number could change but not go over. Bay Area will be Squad 410s. There will be an office, restrooms, but the day room, correct me if I'm wrong, will be a common area.
So in conversations that I've had regarding EMS and Harrisburg, they have a situation where I believe that they pay rent. Is that right? Is that how that has worked when they were moved into that?
So Jimmy is here to answer the questions regarding that, but
Thank you.
We do have different arrangements for several different facilities, as I
Okay.
understand them.
It's on.
Okay.
Yeah.
We co-locate with 4 different fire departments, actually 5. It's a little, all of them are slightly different, but then 4 of them are very comparable. Where we're at in Midland, we pay a monthly rent, and that has been going on since 1995. They increased rent in 1997, and we've been paying that same rate since 1997. They are currently doing some renovations and stuff down there that we've been very involved in. The other 4, 2 be it in Concord with Concord Fire, 1 be it with Harrisburg, and 1 be it with Kannapolis Fire. We got in on the planning stages of the building, and we, we paid for a percentage of that building up front. And in the contract, that's looked at as a 50-year lease. And in those locations, those 4 locations, we pay utilities for the percentage of square foot that we occupy.
Do you remember how y'all calculated the percentage
I
upfront?
do not, and that would be something I would have to get with Tom Nunn and Michael Miller now and figure out how we come up with them. But it was a per square foot construction cost. Jake, can you remember?
Yeah, it's simply square footage of it. We
Yeah.
The calculation, so like with the ones that was with us was, they were just specifically square footage of the certain areas, and then like bay space, and then, like the station we have with EMS now, I mean, it's a dedicated space where they have their own kitchenette area, stuff like that. So it was 100% square foot base. from the initial build stage?
So it would be cost of construction per square foot in the year time frame in which, because that changes, obviously, that fluctuates.
Obviously, yes.
In the time frame in which those buildings were built.
Okay.
The last one we did with them was Station 10, which is out on Poppertent Road near Harris Road, and that was 2019 when the contract was executed.
Okay.
I think Station 11 was before that, and that was 2014.
Yes, sir.
The Kannapolis and the Harrisburg would be the two, most tenured agreements we're in with those. And then, like I say, Midland, we pay a monthly rent and do not pay utilities. It's all covered in the rent. So it's a little bit different in the different places we occupy.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to kind
Sure,
of
that's why I'm here.
figure out why, like how y'all calculated that,
Right.
and then if maybe we could do something comparable in a situation like that versus giving a lump sum payment, so.
And I mean, I guess the 1995 agreement I wasn't involved in. Obviously, I was here, but not in a position to be in that. But the fact is in that we were going into an existing structure. So there wasn't an upfront cost built, and it was just worked, I imagine, at the time. And again, this is somewhat speculation, but at the time, it was probably just looked at, the best deal was a monthly rent.
Gotcha, okay.
So,
That's all.
anything else for right now? I'm here.
Well, I was going to say, for me, I don't know if they do.
No worries,
but-
I can stay here.
Well, and to be clear, it wasn't up to $1 million. So depending on the square footage cost,
Right.
that was going to be, we just wanted to put a max amount on it so we didn't have an exceeding price. And the utilities was calculated out at the percentage of the facility that we would be occupying. Is that
So
correct?
we've already calculated the percentage of
The proposal
facility?
was 36%, correct?
36%.
Okay,
Yeah. So it was very similar to the agreements that are in place, for the most part.
And that total was based off square footage. It'd be approximately 3,000 square feet that would be
Okay.
allocated to Squad 410.
yep, okay.
I need clarification, if I may, on one thing that I've heard both ways. I've heard that the Squad 10 is going to be in a separate building. I've heard it go both be in the same building. I'm not clear which way it is.
It'd be in the same building.
Same building,
Yeah, the
okay.
Bay Area. And the only thing that would be common areas is the kitchen and the day room. They would have their own bedrooms, own restrooms, and own offices.
Okay.
Now, you said that your project about building this building was April 17, 2024, but when was the co-locate discussion began? When did that begin?
Let's see, when did we start that?
But you should have been there, the first initial request that we sent to the county as far as the fire marshal's office. Should be,
I'm going to step away. If something comes up, I'm here.
Yes, our board of directors met, and this was sent, a document saying that our board was for the co-location, and this document was sent May 12th of '25.
So when you planned the building to begin with, there was no
No, we had not planned that.
No idea.
Once, as we got started, we saw an opportunity to move the squad closer to the affected areas, departments that may need them. And that's when we thought, well, we'll offer this to the county and see if they would be interested in doing a co-location.
Okay. Now, I heard rumors, and I will admit they're rumors, that Squad 410 is also Allen Fire
So
personnel.
there are some that work for Allen, but those same folks also work for Mount Pleasant, Midland, and other places. So it's not just Allen that they work part-time at. We have a couple that do just work part-time at Allen. That's the only part-time work, but others work for different departments.
You gotta push a hole through the table.
Yes,
to get it going.
exactly.
I just have a question. When we had the revaluation, you guys picked up a considerable amount of money from that. Does either of you know how much you picked up?
I don't have I have a rough estimate. I don't have that total with me. I can get it if
It
the
might
board
have
needs it,
been
but it's
upwards
around
of-
379,000.
Might have been, it was several $100,000, maybe even upwards of $1 million. Is that right?
No, the total was right around $379,000.
$379,000, okay. And all the fire departments gained from that because of we left, the rate the same. But I wanted to say this from wherever it came from. I got a call today, someone had called, or the chairman had heard that I have a son with the fire department. Well, I'm going to clear it up. I don't. I got a nephew, with Jake sitting right there. Jake's my nephew, and he works for Allen, so I don't have a son working for the fire department, so whoever started that rumor. I want to clear that up.
I'm going back to the question I asked because Chairman Jones touched on it as well. It says that April 17th, 2024 was when you guys had talked about purchasing that property, but according to ordinance number 2020-50, section 3431, duties of the fire marshal, it says, the duties of the Cabarrus County Fire Marshal are to act as a liaison between the fire departments and the county manager and the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners, and shall keep them informed on matters involving fire departments, fire districts, and tax districts. So I'm curious at what the time frame is as to, that's not on you, you guys did your board of directors in April, but I'm curious why we just found out about it this past meeting, because it kind of got dropped, your second station and Squad 410 got dropped in our lap all at one time. So I'm curious as to what the time frame is that we're supposed to know about these things.
Jacob, would you like to come up? So again, we've had some personnel changes on our side. So I'm going to let Jacob address who was told and when and that kind of thing.
So, with the specifics of that particular ordinance, the thing that I would ask is, and the thing that's not been necessarily defined, and the guiding documents that I use to gauge when I provide you guys updates, is the contract and the ordinance. If there's something in the contract or the ordinance, whether it's the budget, an apparatus, even the apparatus says that I'm supposed to issue the certificate of need, there's nothing that says that it needs to come to you guys. If there's something, and that's the thing, and we talked about updating contracts and ordinances. Right now, there's not a definitive, if you go read those documents, there's not a definitive benchmark that says, all right, when this happens, you need to tell the commissioners X, Y, and Z. It's whenever there's things that bring our concern level up to the point where it may be a liability or it may be something that's of a concern, that's when we say, hey, we probably need to bring this to their attention, as we have in the past, as you know. So to say what time frame or what particular incidents or what particular items is supposed to be elevated to the commissioners, it's an open item. There's nothing that defines and says that this X, Y, and Z needs to be elevated to the commissioner's attention.
Mr. Chairman. You know, part of the reason I'm going to have this meeting is so people can speak up, not for us to have to ask all these questions. I mean, we ask questions, that's fine, but that's not the only purpose of this meeting. You know, I've heard some in favor, some against, and I just thought we ought to have a meeting together, face to face. Those who support this, get up and say so. Those who don't, for whatever reason, say so. We need to know what the mindset is of everybody here to try to reach a consensus. And that's what I was hoping we could do tonight. So I would encourage anybody that has an opinion to share it with us tonight, please.
Commissioner Wortman, I do have a follow-up question to that question. Is there a definitive information that you guys would like on a regular basis that you're not receiving now? Is there something that, some type of report you would like to bring for me to bring to you each month? I mean, is there any particular information you're looking for that's not
I would
being
think
provided?
if we're talking about building a fire station, as tense as that is, we all know what that, very prideful organizations, I've been there, but that is a major decision, and honestly, it kind of just feels like got blindsided with it, since people have known for a year. We did the budget, like I said, we took a beating, because technically by leaving that the same, that was a tax increase, and people were not happy about that. We heard it, everybody heard it. So I would think if you're going to build a station, that would be something we might need to know, so that we can kind of plan accordingly. You know, if we're talking about budgeting $1 million to Allen, well, then when we do our budget, you know, we start in February, maybe we have to move things around. Maybe we have to budget things elsewhere. But if we don't know it's coming, then we've not budgeted this. Have we budgeted this money? Yeah. So it's kind of like, I mean, things like that, it would be nice for us to know so that we can plan when we're going through that entire budget process.
Well, it's not been a precedent in the past, and I mean, of course, we can set a precedent that, I mean, I can put together some type of monthly report to bring to you guys that has like, hey, here's how many calls that's been run in the county this month, here's how many calls, if any, have been missed, here's every second dispatch, here's what the staffing's looking like, here's any major projects going on that I'm aware of. If that's something that we want to start doing, it's definitely something we can implement. It's just something we need to,
Yeah, more
Decide that
information
we're-
is always better.
it's just something we need to decide we're going to do and make it a practice.
So we can add that to your reports, just, you know, for you all to read, and then if you have additional questions, you know, so not as to prolong the meeting, if that's okay, then you can ask, you know, get up with staff and ask questions, and we can bring on a full report at a meeting if we need to.
Mr. Chairman, to try to simplify it, I would just say, if it's not going to affect us, you know, decisions we have to make, then, you know, we don't have to hear about it right away. But if it's going to affect budgeting and, you know, decisions that we do have to make about things, we need to hear about it right away when your decision is made, what you want to do. In other words, if you make a decision in April, you're going to ask for this, don't wait till July. I mean, that's when I found out. Maybe you didn't wait till July, but I didn't know anything about it till July. So we need to know sooner than that.
So it sounds like from your timeline that you approached us in May, and the budget was already put together and kind of on your table at that point. So it was a late-breaking event for us to catch it in the budget this year. Had they approached us in January, February, you know, it might have been something we could have captured in it, but at May, it was too late to capture in the budget, so.
Right, but we do budget adjustments sometimes. And
Correct,
if we're going to have
and-
to do that, we don't need to go 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you may approach in May, I didn't hear about it till July, so
Well, the other
Yeah.
thing too.
we need
is
to know
can-
quicker than that.
We can pull a transcript of emails too that shows kind of that back and forth conversation that took place in the first couple of months of saying like, we're interested in this, okay, here's the information I need, and then them providing that back, and then us saying like, we also need to know X, Y, and Z, and kind of provide you a timeline of what that looked like before we ever got to the point of where we were prepared and felt like we had enough information to bring it in front of you guys.
Yeah,
Um,
and I'm talking about the co-location. I didn't learn
Yes.
about that till July. I knew about the
Correct.
station in November, so.
Yes, and so when this came before us, we started asking for more information because we didn't have a budget. You know, if it was going to be $5 million, then, you know, we could pretty much say right quickly, you know, that wasn't going to be an option. So we needed kind of a budget and some information to bring forward to you, which is what we did as we got the information together and got the budget, got the timelines, all of that. That's when we brought it to you.
Jacob, I'm curious, in your conversations, because I assume, as the fire marshal, you make your rounds to all the fire departments,
To an extent, yes.
for the most part. Did y'all, like, together ever have any conversations about this to kind of get a feel for how this was going to make, like, if this was going to be a sticky situation that was going to transpire by putting this on the agenda?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I mean, that land has been cleared for almost 2 months now. I mean, it's been no secret that Allen was planning on building a fire station until this conversation occurred.
Well, obvious, I mean, the fire
Yeah.
station is not, I understand as far as redistricting and the location of where that fire department is going to be, has a little contention behind it from amongst the fire departments. But I think more than that, it's the $1 million that's going to Squad 410 and the lump sum that it's going to in the Allen Fire Department. So I hear what you're, you know, about the house itself, but I mean, like Commissioner Pittman said, we've known about this firehouse. And I just have to say, being on the county commission now for a whole 6 months-ish, I think, I had no idea that the fire departments had this territorial kind of thing going on. And so it's, looking, as an outsider, initially looking in, you think, fire department, come to my house. Fires come, I've got a fire department that's going to do that, got, EMS that's going to come if I need an ambulance. It never dawned on me that it was going to be like this. And so as a citizen, obviously, our main goal is just to make sure that there's coverage. To Commissioner Wortman's point a few meetings ago, I don't care as long as you come. I've learned quite a bit about how some of this works. And I do know that regardless as to who your district is, you have to respond, and y'all have those co-agreements, right? Like if it's a certain location, that you're also going to do that and respond to that as well. And I've also heard that we started Squad 410 strictly to pick up any of the gaps, basically, in the county. So from my understanding, they don't respond to anything but what is in the county. Is that right?
Yes, so so basically, we exclude the municipalities, as in the full-time municipalities being Concord, Harrisburg, Kannapolis, and then we don't respond automatically to Odell because it's just such a far drive on the complete other side of the city. So pretty much everything east of 85 is what we typically say, but also that includes Mount Pleasant and Midland. They're automatically dispatched on every structure fire, every rescue assignment, every pin-in, every hazmat, I might have already said that, brush fire, cardiac arrest, and then some departments have them on additional calls outside of that. So Midland has them on every commercial fire alarm. Georgeville has them on every commercial fire alarm. Northeast, I think, has them on every traffic accident. So we kind of laid the groundwork of everything that they're on, and then departments can add them to additional things on top of that if they so choose.
So I read a letter, I guess it was from the state fire marshal, that has changed protocol for what is and isn't identified as a fire department. And so from what the letter said, I'm just confirming, nobody's ISO changes based on Squad 410, whether they are able to respond or not. Is that right?
No, it does not affect the ISO scores at this point. There's nobody that would negatively be affected in any definition changes on the state side, and I can provide some more information on that, basically all the nitty-gritty behind how that decision was made. But no, it did not change anything positively or negatively based on that definition of what they were quantifying a squad as. The other thing, too, that you got to remember with ISO is that we always talk about ISO. The only thing ISO looks at is structure fire responses. It doesn't look at medical calls. It doesn't look at rescue. It doesn't look at traffic accidents. It doesn't look at fire alarms. The only thing that they pull and look at is a structure fire dispatch or structure fire response.
Okay.
So that is a very, very small portion of the call volume that.
But that's what everybody's insurance is based on.
Yep.
Even though they don't look at
The average
the
taxpayer-
majority of what would be the response.
Like you said, the average taxpayer, when they pick up the phone, call 911, they don't look at this
Right.
stuff. They
Oh,
just
yeah,
expect
no.
somebody
They just
in a
want
big
somebody to
red
come.
fire truck to show up and
That's right.
provide them help. And when we talk about ISO, we're talking about structure fire responses, but that's 5% of what the fire departments do. And it's an entire shift in thinking whenever you go from looking at it from the citizen side to looking at it from the administrative side.
Right, I gotcha. Thank you.
Was the co-location of Squad 410 brought up at the fire service meeting? And if so, how did that go? And if not, why not?
I don't know that it was, I don't know if it's been brought up. I don't know that we've had a fire service board meeting since.
Our July meeting was canceled.
Okay.
So then our next one is in October.
Have there been any unofficial meeting between the fire chiefs or anybody discussing this?
Not at this time, but that was a point I wanted to bring up. I believe a lot of this could have been avoided if there was some more communication, especially with us. And I'll admit, maybe I could have done a better job at talking with our neighboring departments about the station. But with all the issues that were brought to you guys, if someone would have contacted us at Allen Fire Department, we could have contacted our chief chairman and then requested a meeting and discussed it. Maybe slow down the project a little bit until we could get more information out there. But no one has contacted me and still hasn't. I have reached out to several of the chiefs, but no one has contacted me directly before all of this came up.
All right.
I would have been glad to listen and see what we could have done with our meeting with our board of directors to try to make the situation better.
Wanted to ask you, have you got what I would call a master plan for disposal of the old building at 410? What do you plan on doing? Are you going to sell that building, or what's the story on that?
EMS would still be located there.
Pardon?
The EMS would still be located there. They're sharing the location with EMS
So
right
they'll
now.
stay there?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
So are there any chiefs in here or anybody that wants to raise an issue with this or show your support or open some more dialogue? It seems like we've got every major player here.
My name's Jim Brady. I'm the chief of Coldwater Fire Department. I don't have no problem with that, Allen, what they're doing, because it don't affect me. It don't affect our fire department. But I do have problems with Squad 410. I don't support them. To me, it's a waste of our tax dollars. We could use that money, we could use that money by giving it to all the fire departments so they could pay for manpower, and you'd get more people on the trucks where it did count. I mean, you started at $30,000 in the budget year 06, 07, giving us $30,000. Well, everybody in this building's got a raise since 06. We ain't got a raise for that, and it's still $30,000. And we've asked several times before 410 was ever formed about money. No, we ain't got no money. But now you're paying 13 salaries.
Are you talking about the staffing grant?
That's right.
Okay.
You know, staffing grant has never been increased since, and I'm Tom Blackwell, President, Volunteer Fire Department, Coldwater. And I'd like to also say, take this minute, in 1975, Jim and I started our venture in the fire service in this county. So we've been at this for 50 years in Cabarrus County. And we have been adamant about doing things the proper way at Coldwater. And I think it speaks for itself over the last 50 years. We think we're one of the finest departments in the state when it comes to volunteer. And we've done a lot with less. At one time, I know we went 20 years without an increase in our taxes or something. We were like 5 cents, and that was the way it was. But with the staffing and stuff that we got today, we've had to make an increase since. So we're now sitting at 8 cents. But most of that's because of payroll. So as a whole, Cabarrus County is one of the greatest departments, as a fire department as a whole for everybody in the county. I feel that we're as good as anybody in the state, as the county as a whole. The only thing we need in this county is manpower on trucks. This 410 program, since it was introduced, has done nothing but duplicate the cost of turnout gear, air packs, radios, et cetera, and anybody in the fire service can tell you all that's expensive. Every fire department in this county already has all this stuff. All we need is a body to put in this stuff. So under the current system that 410 works, we are opposed to it and have been since the day it existed. But we got it and we deal with it, and it's nothing personal against the guys that work it. They're great guys. But if there's a way and a will that we could get these guys in our stations where they show up to work at a fire department, and this fire department, they could put 2 guys in our station and 2 guys in another station, And maybe we could go anywhere in the county they want us to go with a full crew of 4 or 5 guys. Because we already upped our staffing to, is there a possible way? So Allen can build all the fire departments they want. We got no beef with them or any other department. It's not our boat. But when it comes to giving them $1 million for 410, we have a problem with that.
Kelly, can you, if you don't mind, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt y'all, but I think it's important to give a little bit of history on Squad 410, why it started initially. Yeah.
Well, that was a whole sore subject there. We come to a chiefs meeting one night. Steve Langer stands up, oh, here's your guy in charge of 410. What chief in there here right now knew about that before it started? Is anybody's hand raised?
I was fire chief at Mount Pleasant when that happened, and it never made it out until that night.
Yeah, never come out there that night. So it was shoved down our throat to start with.
And that's,
Didn't even ask about it.
in all honesty, that's pretty much what I've heard. I mean, that's where a lot of the source of contention comes from with Squad 410, at least that I've heard, is the way that it was told that they were going to be getting Squad 410. So I think a little bit of information on actually why at this point we need Squad 410, what they actually respond to, like, that is important, I think, for people to hear.
I will do my best.
Okay.
I inherited this very recently, so.
And if it helps to answer, I can have somebody come up who was instrumental in dismantling the rescue squad, which from my understanding is Squad 410 is pretty much a repeat of the Cabarrus County Rescue Squad. Tim Herlocker can come up and explain the history. I mean, he'd been here for 40 years. Probably knows it better than most people. He can maybe fill in. And then after that, Chief Williams, I got a question for you when they're done, whenever they're done.
Thank you for coming up.
There you go.
Oh, they got the easy one.
Yeah, my name's Tim Herlocker, and like Kenny said, I've been in this emergency services for 40 years this month, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, I know probably 90% of the people in here. And just like Jim said, 410 was pushed down our throat, 100%. We had no say-so in it. It was just like Cabarrus Rescue Squad. And they're aware of this. I was the president of the board, the association board, whenever all that came to fruition. And it was to the point that we were duplicating so many services. And every volunteer fire department here knows that. We had everything that the rescue squad had. And we didn't need them running from one side of town to the other. If they would have picked the discipline, I think the Cabarrus Rescue Squad would have still been here. If they would have picked a specific topic like water rescue or high angle rescue, but when it came to vehicle extrication, we did not need them. Every fire department in this county at that time had every extrication tool, every strut, every piece of cribbing, everything that was needed. I've just got a question, maybe Jacob can answer this. Who is the authority having jurisdiction in all of these volunteer fire departments?
On the scene of an incident, under general statute, the fire chief and North Carolina Fire Code as well.
Okay. Who makes the run cards for these fire districts? Because I'm under the understanding that the fire chiefs in this county are not allowed to change their run cards to not include 410. Is that true?
So,
Jacob, do you mind coming up to the microphone so everybody can hear?
So I want to make a delineated line here in the sand that although the fire chiefs have authority, jurisdiction, and control of an incident, the county is ultimately responsible for what happens in this county.
Oh, I'm not doubting that.
So when you look at general statute, you look at the history of fire districts in North Carolina. Rural fire districts were founded in order to provide funding for rural fire departments. Barbecue chicken sales wasn't cutting it. So basically, the general statute enabled citizens to come to the commissioners on behalf of themselves and say, Commissioners, we want you to collect a tax on our behalf that says to provide fire protection. Now, general statute lists out multiple different options for the county to do that. One is they can provide it themselves. Two is they can contract with the rural fire department. They can contract private fire protection. You can go read all the options that it gives to a county on what they can do in order to provide fire protection for that tax money. When the commissioners, either at that time and when we set a tax rate every single year, we continue to take obligation for those people's tax money that we collect. So we as a county, when we collect that tax money, we are taking on the responsibility and the burden of providing fire protection to those citizens for that tax money collected. So although on an incident, the fire chief has jurisdiction and control of what happens on that incident, that's the reason we have the contracts that we do that says we expect X, Y, and Z to be done. That's why we have an ordinance in place that says this is what we expect X, Y, and Z to happen. And that's because we're ultimately responsible for that. And I'm sure y'all have seen litigation. There's many times if they fail, we get sued too. If something happens and the fire department fails to provide service, we're just as much on the hook as they are because we hired them to do the job. So some of the background on, and again, I wasn't here whenever the change in decision was made to pull the run cards underneath the county. But I think there was some ill will that was going on between fire departments where there was some arguments or some argumentation between the two, and there was some questionable changes being made on run cards that were not in the best interest of the citizens. At that time, the county chose to pull that back under the county control to make sure that any of those kind of infighting rash decisions that were being made as a result of personal differences wasn't putting our citizens at the ultimate risk in the downfall of that. So I wasn't here when that happened, but that's the information that I've been told of why that decision was made. Now, I don't know that I've ever, out of all the run card changes that have been done in this county in my 5 years of being here, 4.5 years of being here, I don't know that there's ever been a single one that's been brought to me that I said no. Like, if we're prioritizing our citizens, if we're prioritizing closest response, if we're prioritizing protection, or there's a specific purpose in which you're making that decision, whether it's you're choosing a staff at fire department at third or fourth alarm because you just need people versus pulling another volunteer department, as long as you have justification behind the decision you're making and it makes sense, I've never once told a fire department no on a run card change.
Okay. And then, I guess my next question is, look, I agree, if Allen wants to build a fire station there, that's fine. That's on them. But how long is it gonna take the tax base to pay back whatever amount of money that they're using to build this station when it's already being covered by the departments that are already established? You know, what is the gain? I'm just looking at it for the big picture. I mean,
I'm gonna let
it might be Allen's fire tax money, but at the end of the day, it's county tax dollars.
I'm gonna let Alan speak to that.
And then I guess my other question, and they can answer several of them, is are we looking, if they build that station, is the county looking at realigning the fire districts? And is there any compensation to the departments whose fire district that they may be forced to take? And what's the resolution there? Are they going to treat that like a municipal annexation? And Jake, you can help me out. If a municipality annexes, is it 5 years that they have to pay that department the tax base loss? I think that's what it is. I mean, are they going to still be responsible for paying Mount Pleasant and Georgeville? And look, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm just a citizen. But I did a lot for the town of Mount Pleasant when I was there for 31 years. And I still have a little bit of pride, you know, with that. And I know that Allen's moving, I guess, about a mile from the city limits of Mount Pleasant. Is that correct, Chief? Because Mount Pleasant's already annexed 20 years ago about 700 acres from Highway 200 all the way behind Lakeshore Estates and it comes out there on Joe Boss Road. I mean, I was there, I was the fire chief then. I just think that it's wrong whenever everything's being adequately covered now. And, you know, I hate that growth is going, and I hate that, you know, Allen could be losing district to Concord. But at the end of the day, that's the way the little ball bounces, you know, in the world. But if services are being provided, why are we wasting county tax dollars on something that's already there, is my question.
I'm gonna let Alan speak to the justification behind their station, but to speak to the district lines, and I mean, this is a public meeting, it's recorded, everybody will see it. You're not gonna see a recommendation from us to change district lines. Now, any citizen can call a commissioner at any time and ask questions. But as far as seeing a recommendation on the county side to come in and change district lines, we had those conversations a year and a half ago, and they went over like a lead balloon as far as aligning.
I bet they did.
Yeah, as far as doing what the fire study recommended and aligning closest unit response. I mean, we
Well, I
talked
think it's
about.
been said tonight, there's a lot of pride still in those lines.
There is a lot of pride, but again, and I have no problem making the statement, my allegiance doesn't fall with any fire department in this
Correct.
room. I'm the county fire marshal. My allegiance falls with the citizen with this county. The recommendation from the fire study was to align all of those districts to where everything was as closest fire station as it could be. We brought that up. The commissioners chose not to do anything with it. I have satisfied my duty as the fire marshal. I brought up something that I think is advantageous. I brought up something that I think is not only an independent recommendation, but also something that does put every citizen as close to the fire station as they can be, even on the calls that are not mutual aid responses, independent medical calls, cardiac arrest, depending on what district you're in, and most traffic accidents. That if you do align those to the closest response, then at all times, you're trying to do the best that you can to make sure they're getting the closest unit coming to them at any time. But when it was brought up, you know the political response that it received, just like we see everybody sitting here tonight. And whenever the commissioners chose not to do anything with it, we dropped it and we ain't brought it up since, and I don't intend to. Unless a citizen comes to me and petitions to have a district change, I don't make word. I don't say anything. I bring it to the commissioners and let you make that decision on an independent request one at a time.
Does that still have to go to the state level to get district lines, boundaries changed?
No, it does not.
I think at one time it had to go to a state level.
So,
if I'm not mistaken.
I will also say that when you look at rural fire districts in the general statute, they're originally designed to where in order for them to be changed, a certain percentage of the citizens of that district have to petition for them to be changed. I don't know the history on this, and I don't know why, but Cabarrus County has a special bill that was approved in the legislature that allows us to move district lines without having the citizen request. It puts full authority in the commissioners to make that request.
When was this?
2010, 2006, a long time ago.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying I was in middle school then, I couldn't tell you.
So the reason I ask is because that was mentioned to me too, is that Cabarrus County
I don't know
is
if it was.
different
I don't know if it was the growth.
in
of
many
the-
ways than just one, but this
I
is
don't-
another way that we're
I don't know if
different.
it's the growth of the municipalities, and so they needed more latitude in making those changes as they needed to because of the growth. I don't know what prompted those conversations. Like I said, I wasn't here, and I don't know that we have anybody that still works with us that was here at that time.
Okay. Oh,
Jason has that bill text, I believe. So,
Yeah, and just for clarification, since it was brought up, it started with 1987 session law was where it originally was ratified. And then from there forward, it was ratified again in 2006, and then once again in 2009. And the 2009 session law was the last one. It looks like it's House Bill 1723 possibly. But it's specific to that just updates the context of the County Board of Commissioners the right and authority to adjust lines without going through the typical process that's outlined in the North Carolina General Statutes.
You said House Bill.
I believe it's 1723.
1723.
It's a unique number at the top that I'm not familiar with, the way they have it when I pulled it, but for the PDF, looks like it's 1723 in session 2009 was the last time that it was ratified.
Thank you.
I wasn't there yet.
And real quick, before it gets too far sidetracked, Commissioner Lindsay asked about some history. Chief Williams, real quick. I believe originally, Squad 410, it says Cabarrus County would contract with the City of Concord to pay for 12 positions annually, which the Concord Fire Department would staff. The City of Concord would provide an additional engine or squad company at Fire Station 4 to provide the service. Supervision would be provided by a fire captain of the unit, as is the case with all fire companies in the city, and a battalion chief who oversees Fire Station 4, along with other companies in the battalion. Administration of the personnel and operations would be the responsibility of the Concord Fire Department administration per the contract with the county. Just asking, is the City of Concord still open to some sort of agreement like that in the future? Just not, I don't want to pin you
Right.
down, but just asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I mean, I think the city is always willing to be a partner with the county on anything that we do. I mean, any changes like that for additional staffing or, that would definitely have to be a process thought out and make sure strategically it's beneficial for both, the city and the county. But again, that's a discussion with us, with the city management approval there, and then, of course, city council being on board. I mean, like I say, how the city works. I mean, it's, anytime that we can do something that's mutually beneficial for any of us, whether the county or the city, it's, I mean, it's what we should be doing. It's what the citizens expect us to do.
Okay, I'm Dustin Sneed, Fire Chief of Mount Pleasant. I come up with Chief Erlacher in case y'all had any questions for me. I mean, I've got several, I say concerns. I mean, like I say, Allen can build a station. If they want to build a station, I can't. It's not my ball game. But main thing's district changes, because I just know, I say downstream effects, what's going to come next. Make sure stuff like that don't happen. And it's right next door to the 650 acres that's inside the town of Mount Pleasant. There has been talks of neighborhoods coming there. I don't know. It just takes the right person to come along. I don't know when in the future. I don't have a timeline for that, but I know there has been conversations. And then as far as the Squad 410, I feel like they should be more towards main thoroughfares, like Highway 49, Highway 73, if they're going to continue being around. That's just the access areas they need to go to. That's my main thoughts on that, unless y'all have any more questions.
So y'all do not discuss where each of you want to build buildings ahead of time and look at that? Everybody just decides, hey, we think we could do better over in this area?
Yeah, so as far as from Mount Pleasant, we've got land on Walker Road, because that's where our growth is going. But we haven't built a station yet. We're waiting on the neighborhoods to come up. There's 2 being built right now, 1 is approved. So it's kind of as the rooftops get there to pay for the station, where it won't have an impact on us, if we build it right now. So kind of once the need gets there, we're ready for it. Then, if you look at the map of all the fire stations in the county, how they are now, they're pretty well centered with 5-mile radiuses around them. There's some places that's a little over, and if they can be worked out between neighboring departments, where they're contracted. Say if I've got a 5.5-mile area toward Reimer and they can get there in 3 miles, we can adjust that line and get it within 5 miles of each one. So, there's abilities to do that.
How often does that happen?
Yeah, like I say, it's been a while since they've been adjusted. As far as Mount Pleasant's behalf, we do have a couple areas that's outside the 5 miles, but I know one's over toward Reimer, and there's nobody that can reach it and put it under 5 miles.
Yeah. Well, I want to make it clear that Allen is not trying to take anybody's district or tax base. The reason we want to put a station there has a lot to do with time, not so much, or not only for the area that's in the 9 that we have. We had a cardiac arrest on Joe Boss Road that took us 9 minutes to get to from the current station. If you pull that same data from Mount Pleasant Station, it's even further away as far as time. I don't have that data with me, but I can send it to the commissioners if they like. And with the station that Chief Snead talked about building on Walker Road, I measured that from the entrance to Fieldstone, which is a neighborhood we have, and it's 1.7 miles away. So when they start this station build, we stand to lose a lot of district on that side. So I feel like there's a better way to handle this than redrawing district lines. We can contract with each other, and the closest department responds with the department that is in that primary area. But I want to make it clear that we don't have any plans or pushing to take anybody's district.
Do y'all, when you co-agreement and stuff, y'all share that tax revenue from those taxpayers? Not at all?
No, sir. Dylan Ennis, the Chief of Rammer Fire Department. No, we do not share any money-wise. It's an automatic agreement between us and the next neighboring department that they're going to run to that area. It's an automatic contract, basically. But to go on Chief Dozer's point, as far as the district lines, I mean, it's no secret. Everyone here is very proud of their area. They do not want to give up any piece of it. Understandable. I'm the same way. So I would say if they're wanting to put up a station, that's totally on them. I don't have a say-so. It's way too far away from me anyway. But leave the district lines alone. I feel like we've messed around with those things, and it's never came out in the good, if that makes sense. They were changed back in 2007, I believe it was, when everyone's districts got changed up and no one knew about it. I became the fire chief of Reimer about 5 years ago, and I was still under the impression that we still had area way past Clutch Road. Come to find out, we did not. We were never told. So I would like to see us just leave the district lines alone. As far as the squad program, I agree with Chief Snead. A major thoroughfare would be nice. Something I was wanting to bring to y'all. If we're looking at spending $1 million to give to Allen to put them in their station, can we not take that money and build their own station on county-owned property? I asked Chief Thompson about the mileage from the fairgrounds to each fire department. Fairgrounds is on a major thoroughfare. It's sitting on Highway 49. The county already owns the land itself. Can we not put something up there for them?
So I'll say, in all honesty, that's actually one of I've heard that multiple times from others, wondering why we couldn't just do it at the arena. Because we already own that property and because it's right there on 49. So I don't know if that's something that you guys have discussed also in the past. I don't know.
Sure. It's no secret that the squad does need to come a little closer to the middle. Everyone here can agree with that. So if they are going to come closer, build their own station and let them have it.
Sure. There was,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know we've talked with the county in the past about, partnering with them on Walker Road. And we don't have a, date set in stone. I know it was mentioned that we've had to move funds from, that we were going to use for that to the water line project. But all that money was state money, so we really nothing's been affected there because of that. But I did just think about your question. We do contract with Georgeville for the 600 acres. We do pay them a small fee. I can't remember off the top of my head how much it is, but we do pay them to cover that.
Do we ever have an issue where, and I'm just thinking, because each can charge a different fire rate, tax rate. Where, people are like, well, I'm closer to them and their fire tax rate is cheaper. I believe you said citizens can petition any time to go to one. Have we ever had a situation like that where citizens are like, I don't know which tax rates are, but I'm just gonna say Mount Pleasant's 15%, Allen's 12%. We wanna go to Allen. Is there something that prevents that, or?
There have been situations, and we have received those, and obviously staff has to review that. We typically look at making district changes that are at the petition by the citizen that would benefit the restructuring, such as a ISO rating change that may have not had a rating from before, or a rating that was outside of the 5 miles, that you can only get a 9. So a lot of those times we look at not moving somebody just because of a tax rate issue, because as soon as you open that particular instance, then everybody else is going to be in line to do that as well. You also have to look at coverage distance as well in regards to that. So how far the fire department has to travel. If we move them to another area, that may not be conducive, or it may change, it may change or impact their ISO rating. It may change and impact other pieces of that. So staff does a deep dive on that, but we typically do not do it specifically just for a rate change. It normally has to be some other type of reason in regards to that we would move or change a district line.
I'll make an additional statement to that, and it's a general statute piece, is that, so somebody, a random parcel in the middle of Mount Pleasant's district general statute doesn't allow you to just spot move parcels out of one district into another. It has to be adjacent to the district. It has to abut it. The district line, basically you can't, the only exception to that is if like a municipality annexes an area out of a fire district, then that's where you kind of get the broken pieces out of that. But if you move fire district, that line has to stay congruent. So like I said, you can't spot move a parcel that's not on that district line and move them from one district to the other. General statute will allow it.
So I guess my concern, and I'm not saying anybody's doing this or not, but everybody's moving closer to Lake Shore. Isn't that the name of the subdivision out there? And
Yeah, they've.
Oldenburg or where?
If you're talking about
whatever.
Lake Shore, that's in
Yeah,
Georgia's
they're
area. That's the
migrating
one
towards
that's near.
that area. Does that open the door? I'm not saying you're trying to do that. Does that open the door for that community to come together and start looking, well, it's cheaper over here for us?
No, I don't feel that way, because if Chief Cruz can correct me if I'm wrong, but Georgeville's tax rate is a 9, ours is an 11. And they have an ISO inspection coming up, and if they can get to where that number needs to be, there is no reason for anybody to want to move to Allen's area.
Our ISO is scheduled for January, and we're supposed to be getting down to around a 5. If we get a 5 in that area, it's going to be no different than what Allen provides at 3. Tax rate would be about the same.
Thank you.
And I feel like I need to touch on one other point. Several keep saying that we're giving Allen $1 million, but I don't feel like that's correct. They're giving, that money's going for 410s a build. It's not like we're going to take that money, build the station, and then kick out the squad and keep that for ourselves. That area of the building will belong to Squad 410. So it's not Allen taking $1 million to have for our own station build.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
You go ahead if you want to talk.
No, okay.
I hope I'm right in saying that most of us here are fine with building a new station, because to me, when you first told me about it, I thought, hey, that's great, because it'll provide better coverage than you have now between Allen and Mount Pleasant. That's what I was told, and that makes sense to me. But there's some question about moving 410 there. And I'm getting a little not sure where to come down on this, because it's a question of, is that the best location? Or out by the fairgrounds, would that be the best location? Or maybe there's other locations that some people think might be better. And it's even been raised by a few of the gentlemen who were over here a while ago, raised in my mind the question, do we need to get rid of 410 and spread those assets out among other fire departments? I mean, that's what I think I heard a while ago. Even if it wasn't directly stated, that's what they were getting at, it seemed to me. So we got a lot of questions here, and it comes down to me, with all those differences of opinion about this, what makes it worth up to $1 million to put 410 at that department? Why is it worth as much as $1 million to do that when we don't seem to all agree that that's where it needs to be?
So I'll provide some clarification to a few of those items. So first, staff is not opposed to the county going and building a standalone facility. Mainly the reason that hasn't been brought forward is the cost. It's going to exceed the $1 million piece. So a lot of that is driven by the cost. Strategically, since the squad was incepted in 2017, the goal has been to either co-locate to another fire station or essentially at some point, if the funds would allow, to build a standalone facility. So that's kind of the background and history on that piece, but staff would certainly entertain that as a potential option. However, the funding to probably do that is going to far exceed the $1 million that's been discussed to this point.
Okay, but part of what I was saying, it sounded to me like some of them were saying earlier that we all just get rid of Squad 410, we don't need it. So I can't help but wonder if we took a vote in here, how many would raise their hands to get rid of it, and how many would raise their hands to either build a separate facility or put it with Allen. I think there's several different opinions being expressed here, and I'd like to kind of have an idea. I'd like to get a consensus, but I'd like to have an idea who really would want to get rid of it, who wants to keep it separate, or who wants to put it at Allen or at Highway 49. I mean, there's all kinds of different ideas right here, and I'd kind of like to get some broader guidance from the fire chiefs about what you think we ought to do.
I think there's more involved than just disbanding Squad 410. You have several people, that's their livelihood. They work full-time for that piece. So, I mean, it's not simple to just disband it. There's a lot more that has to go into that, I feel.
I have some staff comments, but if you want to hear from the other fire departments first, that's perfectly fine, and then I can conclude with staff comments. Or if you want to go ahead and hear those now, I can express those now.
Either way, but I would like to hear from you.
Sure,
Just
I'll hold.
out of curiosity, how much are we paying to keep them at EMS right now?
Correct, there's no, that's covered amongst the normal operating budget of the facility itself.
Or we can spend $1 million to move them there, or we can spend over $1 million to build a new station, or they can stay there for free where they're currently at.
And that is an option. They could, of course, stay where they're at.
And just, I wanted to Chief Dozer, you guys, what you were saying, so if you build your new station, and then Mount Pleasant comes in and builds their new station, you guys are just gonna run mutual aid. And you're not gonna move boundary lines, you're just gonna
No,
run
that's not
mutual
what
aid
we
with
are.
each other, like
Is that
any
right?
other neighborhood, correct?
Right, because with Mount Pleasant, with the plans to build on Walker Road, we're going to have to do the same thing with them. They're going to be closer to the majority of our district and most of our tax base. So we'd have to work out a contract to where we respond together as opposed to just moving the boundary lines. I feel like would be the best way to handle that.
How many of the Squad 410 strictly just work for Squad 410? Full-time?
Full-time, as far as like, that's their only full-time employment?
Yes.
All of them. I mean, they all have some part-time employment, but all of them, that is their full-time.
And that's how many total?
There's 13 FTEs, full-time equivalent.
13.
And then there's currently 6 part-time staff.
I got a question. Darren Henson, Vice Chair, Georgia Fire Department.
Where'd you come from? Step up here.
What percentage, so how does Squad 410 draw their funding from the fire tax? Is that funded from the fire tax? If so, what percentage of each fire district tax goes to fund Squad 410?
That does not come from the fire district tax. That is a general fund allotment from the county. So Squad 410 as a whole is funded strictly from the general fund, and there is no additional funding that comes from the fire district tax. Whatever you are assessed on the property value based on your tax rate is what you receive, and that goes directly to you with the small percentage that the county does keep at the 1.5% collection rate that is collected from that.
And that was my question for some of the areas that didn't utilize them as much, like Coldwater, Odell. What was the difference there? And also, again, what Coldwater addressed, would it be more beneficial to these other departments, especially that are having the staffing issues, hence then the higher run numbers in the south end of the county, instead of the $1 million investment to build a station? Would it be a better investment to put bodies on trucks? So these fire departments are already carrying all that equipment. And, you know, that way no personnel lose their jobs.
Sure.
Would it be a easier feat?
So I can go ahead and, I guess, start speaking to that. I was going to wait till the end, but I'll go ahead and start speaking on that. So I do understand that some are not in favor of the program. The program was incepted before I took over as the director of both emergency management and fire services, so I inherited that piece of it. I was employed by the county, but I didn't have decision-making power on that. So that was an inheritance of the program itself. The squad program as a whole was originally incepted to provide supplemental services to the fire districts. That was the original intent of the program, was to provide supplemental services, in part due to, at the time, was a starting to see a trend in declining of volunteerism. I think we can all sit in here today and attest to the fact that, unfortunately, you know, volunteerism is not what it once was. It's not just in the fire service, it's across all civic and other types of organizations that are out there. We are all vastly struggling from that. One of the other things that's driven by is a lot of the volunteer/combination fire departments also use part-time staffing. There's only a small number overall of individuals that, you know, would meet hiring capabilities to be able to be employed by each individual department. So there's a pool of people, and there's only a pool of people, and we're all pulling from the same pool. And that pool begins to dry up over time until we can get more people involved in the fire service and we can begin to see that pool grow. But we're all kind of, at times, I feel like, and many departments have attested to this over the years, that we're all kind of struggling with getting enough people, you know, to be able to do that piece of it. So long story short, the original intent is for the squad to provide that supplemental manpower assistance to the counties or to the county fire departments, excluding the municipalities and excluding Odell because of travel distance and time. We as staff have spoken many times over the last couple of years about the future of the program. As with any program that anybody has, whether it's county, whether it's your individual departments, you want to see that program grow. And if we don't put time, effort, energy, and money into it, then it's going to get stagnant and it's not going to grow at all. So we are certainly open to other staffing proposals for the squad. I'm not going to agree or disagree that the way in which it was, I guess, instituted, right, wrong, or indifferent, but it's in its current form as it stands today, which is staffing level of 4 per shift that rides a Ford F-250 pickup truck that responds throughout the county to provide supplemental services. We are open to, if it would be the desire of the commissioners, to change that staffing model to where we would look at placing firefighters into stations. We are open to that. We have had conversations with fire departments in the past about approaching us about the county leasing employees. Essentially, I'm not going to go into obviously the finite details of that, but essentially the county would hire the individual, they would be county employees, and the districts would, or the fire departments would, reimburse the county for that expense. In that way, it allows the individuals to tap into the retirement system and a benefits package that may or may not be better or worse on the other side of that from what you can get as a independent private entity. So we are certainly open to other staffing models in the future. There are a couple other counties in the state that do similar type of staffing pieces to that. One that I can think of right off the top is Forsyth County. Forsyth County places firefighters into fire stations, and they are county employees that respond within that particular area that they're so housed at. So I do understand that some have, some concerns with that. I think it's important to remember, though, is that at some point in the future, the county will become more involved in the fire service business as a whole. And I say that from the standpoint that volunteerism is continuing to decline. The demands on the individual fire departments are becoming more and more. You can look across the state and see that there are departments that are currently struggling. In the last couple of months, there's been a number of mergers that have occurred throughout the state of fire districts. So I think as we continue to evolve in the fire service, and this is not a tomorrow thing, so please don't take that from this meeting, but as an individual that oversees this for the future of the county, we have to be cognizant of the fact that, as Chief Thompson said, the county is ultimately responsible at the end of the day. And we need to have the assurance and ability to be able to cover that in the future if that would come to fruition, to where the county would have to be further involved in the fire service business. And when I say that, that could be a department that decides to dissolve. It could be a department that is, unable to meet the contractual ordinance or ISO obligations of that. And there may be area that's left over after we look at everything from that aspect of it that can't be covered. So there's a number of different scenarios here where that can easily come into play there. The other piece of that is you have a program in place. By essentially dissolving that program, I mean, clearly it cuts 13 full-time positions and about a half a dozen part-time positions. However, at some point, we will have to make that decision in regards to that piece of it. And if we dissolve that program, I think we can all say that it's going to be very difficult to rehire in the future if that would occur.
I don't think that's a rush of judgment to want to dissolve it. I think a better use of the asset and to the taxpayer.
Sure.
I mean, they're riding around in a pickup truck with, equipment that is in every firehouse on every fire truck. And the staffing struggles, especially as Chief mentioned, that, the incentive that the county gives the fire departments, that hasn't went up. Everybody has went up, and that hurts to the demand of services.
Sure.
Go ahead. I think if we're looking at all options and possibilities, what would be the best use of that service and to serve the taxpayers and the citizens of this county in all aspects? Because ultimately, what we're paying as a taxpayer, what we're paying that funds 410, the people up in Odell, none of that investment's looking for them. People in Coldwater, if they're not using them, it's not working for them. So what's the best use of that department without cutting those positions to better align with where we're growing as a county?
Sure.
And I've been involved in public safety fire department since 2000. I've shut doors at a fire department, and I've worked different aspects in the county involved with public safety. And I think as we evolve as a county, we got to look at what's best fit. I mean, yes, we're going to grow, but how can we best serve what's already in place and supplement what's there?
No, and like I said to begin with, I would certainly agree that staff is open to other possibilities of use of those personnel. I would also, you made the point about the equipment and everything. While we do run, obviously, we've purchased, equipment that the other fire departments have. I would also say that obviously there's a duplication of some equipment across the county as it is now within other fire departments. So I do understand where that point is made. However, there's also a duplication of other equipment across other fire departments that could be, we could look at a mutual aid type thing to where, there may be times where a piece of equipment doesn't need to be purchased, to where we could call upon our neighbor to bring that piece of equipment to us. And then that way that would save our budgetary money to then be used for staffing or other expenses or other things like that. So I think there's a lot of ways that as a whole, as a county, that we can work better together as well. Many years ago, we stepped through purchasing agreements or cost-saving measures to where we buy a larger volume of equipment at one time to get a better price. And, we've stepped through different scenarios with that too. So I think if we all have an open mind about that as we continue to move forward. The fire service is changing, probably a lot faster than we really, care for it to at the end of the day. But as we continue to evolve with that, we also have to be open-minded to, strategically planning this as well to make sure that we're using these assets and this funding to the best of our ability. And if that's restructuring the program, then we're open to restructuring that program.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Because I know we've talked before, when this came up, I have zero interest in getting in business as the fire service or fire chiefs, not a fight that I want as a commissioner. You had said that, as the fire service changes, the county's going to be getting more involved. Do you understand? We get emails that the county is going to take over these fire departments. And now we have a statement that eventually it's going to, the county's going to have to get involved. We're looking at buying a truck. We're looking at building them their own fire station. Do you understand where we get those emails from and how that looks right now?
Sure.
I don't want any part of that, and I got 17 months left, and I'll fight tooth and nail not to make sure that they run their own fire stations.
Sure. So I'll clarify that statement. And the point of me making that statement was for you to have the information that you have for the due diligence to make the decisions that you need to make. At the end of the day, I agree. The county doesn't want to be in the fire service business until such time that we have to be in the fire service business. And I can't predict that for the future. I'm not saying 5, 10, 20, 25 years. It may never happen. But at some point, just looking across the state and looking at the challenges that fire departments face, there could be a possibility at some point that if a fire department itself dissolves and it cannot function anymore as a fire department, and we look at the districts that surround it and we push them as far as we can go to not jeopardize ISO ratings, travel time, things of that nature, then there could be an area, could be small, could be large, that is left uncovered that we cannot cover. Then at that point, the county itself may have to step in and determine how are we going to cover that? How are we going to provide that service? So I want to, point of clarification, the county is not looking to start a county fire department. The county is not looking to invest itself into the business of the fire service more than where we're at currently.
Well, and I think. No, you go ahead.
The goal here is to make sure you have the information that you need to make these informed decisions, and that is an option at the end of the day that may have to be looked at. For the citizens that probably don't know, at the end of the day, they are blessed with a county volunteer and combination fire service that provides a significant cost savings to the county that the county does not have to invest into because it is being provided by the individual fire districts and their fire tax. If the county had to assume that overall responsibility across the board, the number would probably be staggering at what it would cost to do it, because if the county's going to go all in, we're going to have to go all in at a full-time capacity with everything that's going to be envisioned with that. So again, the county is not looking to be in the fire service business. I'm just telling you that by doing away with a program that is already here, that we could restructure, and that then we could disperse out staff to individual stations. We can hire more staff that could be reimbursed from individual districts and grow that piece of it. We have an opportunity, and we have the groundwork laid for that. And if we remove that groundwork, it's going to be terribly challenging to rebuild that, and it's going to take a lot more time. And to be honest with you, a lot of people don't want to come to work for an organization that disbands an entire program. Because as you can tell, firemen, the rumors are out there, and firemen talk, and I understand that. But we've got to look at the bigger picture of that at the end of the day. And I just want to make sure that you're well informed on that piece of it.
So what I was going to add to that, I apologize for interrupting.
No, you're fine.
So that's kind of where the problem lies, though, is that we have a county saying we don't want to be involved in the fire departments, but yet we did insert ourselves to become involved in the fire departments. And then we don't tell, and we don't have any say-so in where the firehouses can be built, but then we're the ones that also have to redistrict or make that decision whether or not to do that. And according to state statute from 1987.
I do have a clarification on that too, since you made that point real quick. So I did find the additional So I found the Senate law on that too, so, stand by 1 second, let me get that for you so I can give you. So Session Law 2010-17, Senate Bill 1146. So the House ratified that in 2009 session, and then it took until 2010 session through the Senate to get that. So that would be the exact location of where that is.
So my point being is we've inserted ourselves
We have.
into the fire business, whether we want to be part of it or not, we've done it. Maybe ahead of other counties that at some point may have to do this anyway. But I think that's where I guess in my mind, and I'm not going to speak for y'all, but none of us want to be involved in the fire departments. I want them to be able to make their own decisions. They have taxing authority. They can run it how they see fit. So grateful for the volunteer fire departments that we have. I mean, we have it really, really good here in Cabarrus County when it comes to that. But the thing that I wrote down was government growth. I don't remember exactly what you said, but I always say that government doesn't consider itself successful unless it's growing itself. And that's where it becomes very difficult as a taxpayer to lessen the responsibility of the county government, because we develop these programs that end up getting so big that now we can't, if it's not in the best interest of the fire departments or even the community to keep that program going, if you try to get rid of it, then we have, discussions like this about, whether or not this program is even successful or necessary at this moment. And if we continue to put money into a program, maybe 10, 15 years from now is going to be necessary. I hope not. I hope we have more people that want to join the fire department. But is it a situation of where do we need it right now? And is it really the money? Could we be utilizing it in a better way of increasing the grants to the fire departments that haven't had more than $30,000 since 2006, for them to be able to hire more people at the going rate for a fireman? So I don't know. This is where I hear everybody say we don't want to be involved in the fire industry, but we are involved in the fire industry whether we want to be involved or not. We're here.
And one piece of that too, I made the reference to the staffing in the stations. So if there is a desire of the fire departments to begin staffing more people in their stations by balancing that on the county's piece of the ability to hire the people and put them through the different things and then reimburse, then that could easily be a way in which we do that and retain the positions that we have. We just offset that by the individual departments that wish to have that and be able to grow their staffing in a full-time capacity to be able to do that. There's a lot of challenges to trying to hire full-time people in a nonprofit or private setting that the local government has a much better structure to do that in. And you're obviously going to have a lot stronger applicant pool for people that want to move from other municipalities or other types of services that would want to come in, opposed to going to a private that aren't able to transfer in time or in retirement or other benefits.
I think the answer to that would be talk to your fire chiefs and their boards and see what, they come up with as a whole as the fire service in the county based on those chiefs and those boards as to what would be the best use of that.
Sure.
You have to supplement that, because if they're getting more bodies in the station that are there and qualified, that's going to count their number towards those structure fire costs, which will in turn, some of the areas they're struggling with to getting their
Sure.
ISO down on manpower, that'll help them.
Sure, and we've looked at this, over time, and obviously we haven't brought it before you because there hasn't been a need to bring it before you, but we've looked at the different options of trying to find other proposals or other ways to use the program and the personnel as a whole. And I think, now, of course, they're here this evening, so I would, if there's comments that would like to be heard this evening, I'm certainly open to listening to those. But, I think the desire would be is to, if you can get a full-time person in there and you can reimburse that piece of it after we step through everything, there may be a positive to that.
I'm going to make a quick comment. And from a leadership role, when you're considering these positions, these are livelihoods. And I have to go back and look these people in the face and tell them that the county decided to cut their positions if that decision was to be made forward. I'm not going to leave here tonight without standing up for my people. Those are 13 livelihoods that are attached to that program. Whether or not you do something different with them that still allows them to provide for their family, that's okay. Well, we can work with that. What I am going to stand up here and say that I'm not okay with on a public platform is eliminating the livelihoods of my people. That's my 2 cents. I've laid it out there, and, like I said, there's options we can work with. I don't want to see our livelihoods of our people that I'm going to stand up here and fight for, at least the protection of their families and the income. So,
Well, this meeting's just about the relocation anyway. All those conversations will have to be had at a different time after more information and more input from everybody.
Correct. I think we're in the fire business. Maybe it wasn't stepped in the right way. I wasn't involved. Most of the people in this room weren't involved at the time. We have a squad. We have to figure out what to do with them. The discussion tonight was primarily around the co-location. We can go into further discussion, but we're not going to solve the question of how we proceed with 410 into the future tonight. So I think if we can probably circle back to the conversation about the co-location, the issues that everybody sees with that, and we can continue the conversation maybe later about how we proceed with 410 into the future, because we're not going to solve that one tonight.
Joey Houston, Chief of Floresville Fire Department. I think unfortunately probably the biggest reason we're probably all here tonight is probably a communication issue. I was at the same meeting with Chief Pretty where 410 was introduced and kind of shoved upon us. There was no discussion beforehand or really any warning that it was coming. So like I said, there was no communication on that part. I think that was a big point of contention, and it's still, over the years, it's kind of calmed down some, but it's always still kind of there. Same thing with this, with the relocation. I think a lot of this could have been solved in a county chiefs meeting. It was not really discussed. It's been talked about before. I know we brought up, several of us have mentioned the fairgrounds as being a good location. But nothing official has ever been really talked about in the chiefs meeting, and I think a lot of that could have been solved there as opposed to us all having to come here for this. And kind of the sticker shock of the $1 million, kind of same thing, communication issue. I think, you've got a prime example in what you do with EMS. If you do choose to co-locate, I would follow the same program that you have with EMS. I think that's pretty fair to use the same model that they have. As far as probably the other biggest point of contention, I think is probably obviously if Allen needs to build a station and they can do it, then that's, hey, more power to them. I think, like has been mentioned, the district boundary thing is probably the other biggest point of contention. And you as commissioners, that's something that you could help fix is, ratify that law where changes can just be made by commissioners. This group here may say, we don't want to make any changes. We're going to let Allen build their station. We're not going to touch anything. But who's to say next 2 years from now, there's a different board sitting here and they decide to totally change the district lines. I think that's a big point of contention and creates a lot of animosity amongst the fire departments. It's unnecessary. Our job is hard enough as it is sometimes just to do what we need to do. And when you throw in the politics of it and, the unnecessary, things that go on with that, I think that can be avoided. If you have a problem, fix it so that we don't have to deal with it again.
You had something to say?
Yeah, so I'm Chief Cullen with Midland Fire Department, and I had a big old packet of stuff I was gonna bring up here tonight. But, so I've observed a lot of things tonight. There's some positives in this thing. I think what I'm getting from them is they're okay if the squad truck doesn't go there, you just want to have your fire station, correct?
Yeah, we just want to provide a better coverage for our community.
Okay, so he's agreeing to that, so you could put in the footnotes if you're gonna agree to let them do that when they put the station up, and that you don't have to change any district for 10 years. After that, you can go back and revisit 5 years, 10 years, whatever footnote you want. But there's not a fire chief in this room that doesn't think that the Concord Fire Department, if you put the squad truck over there with them, put them on 2 engine companies, if I'm out there at a fire and I got 8 people on 2 engine companies and a battalion chief coming to me, it's a lot better than having one person in my fire station. I don't know of anybody that doesn't pay a part-time 24 hours a day. Is anybody in the room that doesn't have a 24-hour-a-day person?
We don't.
So Georgeville's the same, you got daytime coverage, correct? So if you could get them at night, and their run cards are probably built pretty heavy, we're coming with them too. But there's nobody in this room who doesn't think that man sitting right there can't handle those 2 trucks on that position, and what goes on there better. And what I'm gonna get is 8 people and 2 fire companies now, instead of 1 pickup truck and 3 or 4 people. That's a no-brainer, 100% right there. But if you decide not to do that, once again, they're okay just getting a fire station. That squad truck needs to be standalone. There's interdepartmental issues that go on there, disciplinary issues. There's gonna be issues come up and it's gonna cause conflict. But also with that being said, in that building, there's county property here that's not gonna cost them anything for the county property. You can put the building up, you can finance it out. There's different ways of handling this, but they need to be singular because I don't need them, it's the perception of being attached to them, even if they're innocent of it. I back his play 100%. I don't think that's the intention, but they need to be standalone. They need to be in a corridor where they can get to us. I've already been told on camera, and I didn't have a conversation with him, but the fire marshal said he can't help my station too. Well, I also don't have 6 people full-time every day. I have 2 people full-time, 6 people total, but 2 a day, and I backfill it with part-timers. So, yeah, I can kind of use them too. But if they're not going to help me, I would rather them be someplace that can help some other people. I can get people to come help me. I got outside fire departments in different counties. I got people right beside me I can call. But to hear what just happened here kind of surprised me. That's the best option you're going to get. That's a professional fire department. That's the biggest fire department in this county. That's what he does for a living, is manage this stuff. They will be better trained, better equipped, and I would have 2 engine companies instead of a pickup truck coming to me. That's what I need. And if it's Station 4, is that correct, Chief?
So all that was the initial proposal for Chief Teague about 2012, so,
Yeah.
so there would definitely be a lot of discussion.
But that will be-
Lots changed since then.
That will be the closest station to the 601 point, correct?
Currently, yes, sir.
And you can house 2 companies in there?
We could potentially have 2 companies, because, listen, we've grown a lot since 2012. So there's a lot of change
Yeah.
since then, so.
But to be at that point is pretty close to where they're talking about. The closest engine company on the outside rim will go to that volunteer fire station, I would assume, along with that company coming out of there. That's superior. There's no other thing that's been brought here tonight that could be better than that. There's no doubt. They get to keep their job. They go over there, they get they do whatever qualifications he puts on, training, whatever, because if assumption is they run inside the city, they got to meet that criteria too. But to me, that's the best option you got. I'll talk about the rent stuff later on if it don't go the right way, but that's hands down, easily. I'll take 8 people and 2 trucks any day. I can't turn 8 people and 2 trucks out, and I'm paying people. I can get 6 people and 2 trucks on the best day I have, and a chief. So, yeah, that's all I had to say about it.
Yeah.
I will agree that I do believe that 410 will be better suited in a more centralized location than where they would be at Allen Station 2. That's just my opinion. I have no problem with Allen building a station there. I've spoke with Chief Dozer many times over the last 2 weeks, and as far as he's reiterated, there's no intention of him taking fire district. The big problem with that is if we did lose that district, that's a main part of our budget, and we would lose a significant part of it, and we would be in financial trouble. And we'd have to raise the fire taxes maxed out for the rest of our district to compensate for that. So, and we are, like I said, we are working on doing our ISO to lower that to hopefully by a 5 by January, which will match our rate with Allen's 3. It would be within a cent probably. So that's where we're at. We don't have any issue with Allen building there. We work good together, I believe, and I would rather 410 be a little more centralized location though.
Any commissioner have any more questions of anybody? All right. I want to thank you got one more thing to say? Go ahead.
One thing I'd like to see in the future is departments communicate a little bit better. I feel like we could have avoided this meeting if some of the other departments would have addressed their concerns to us. We could have slowed down what we're doing and discussed it in meetings and things like that. But to find out rumors and other hearsay from others just is not a good way to do business. So in the future, if the chiefs of the departments can work together, better communication, and let's handle things at our level before we have to bring it to you guys, I think we'll go a long way.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a good point, and I think that's kind of why we had to have this meeting. And I hope this will facilitate better communication among the fire departments. And I just wonder, before we get out of here, is there anybody that's been holding back something you think you ought to say, and maybe you think you ought to go ahead and say it? We're open to hear it, just in case.
So, I'm a taxpayer in Cabarrus County. I want to say that first of all. Joshua Case, Deputy Chief with Midland. The $1 million is coming out of county tax, correct?
Correct.
It's not fair, Commissioners, to give $1 million to one department for infrastructure out of the general fund of the county and not give every other department $1 million for infrastructure. That's it.
I'm Jeremy Burris, Fire Chief, Odell Fire Department. So it's been mentioned several times, I just want to say a couple short things. It's been mentioned several times, you know, we don't really use the squad just solely due to distance and our position in the county. So sort of what, going along with what Chief Case said, is, you know, I would just ask that you consider that in the future, as this is going to get more expensive and more in-depth, you know, possibly, right? But I mean, that's sort of what we're alluding to, is the possibility. And, you know, I'm not going to debate, 410. I'm not here to debate that. I'm not, you know, going to argue one way or the other, but I would just say, like, you know, from Odell's standpoint, and also being a taxpayer in that area, you know, you could argue that we get very little benefit out of the squad. So, you know, moving forward, if we could address that, and in whatever way, and I think that's what was just alluded to as well, you know, I think that would, you know, be worth looking into. So.
I want to thank everybody for their comments. We got a lot of information we got to digest. Probably more talks and communication between everybody going forward on this. A lot of things to think about and consider. But I do appreciate everyone coming out here. I do think communication is the key to all this. And I would like to see, you know, the communication at your level first before it comes to us. Every one of you know what you need and what you want and what you do. And you're better suited to decide that than we are in actuality. But I do want to thank you, each and every one of you. Anybody have anything else? Okay. All right. Next, I got a motion to go into closed sessions to consult with an attorney concerning pending litigation, the Mike Downs versus Cabarrus County, as authorized by North Carolina General Statute 143, 318-11A3. Do I have a motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, passes 5-0. All right, we're going into closed session.